What was that Sir Davos said? About taking a knife in the heart for his people. Did you notice that?
You must allow them their flights of fancy. It's dreary in the north.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my episode 3 Q&A video. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. Overall, there were really just a couple big things that most people were talking about in the comments. One, what was going on with Bran, what was up with Jon Snow and Daenerys, what was going on with the battles, and what was going on with the timelines. So I won't do a whole lot of timeline explaining because yes, the timelines do not make sense at all. In reality, the episodes aren't happening one day right after the other. Like, it takes a long time for Euron to sail all the way around from King's Landing after this scene right here and destroy the Unsullied's fleet at Casterly Rock. It would take them weeks to sail all the way around Westeros. Using Euron as an example, it's really easy to chart his timeline. Like, he dropped the Sand Snakes off, then he sailed for a couple weeks around, destroyed the Unsullied fleet. The thing that doesn't make sense is how all this is happening in the same episode. So like, the stuff we're seeing on Dragonstone isn't happening at the same moment in time as the stuff over at Casterly Rock is happening, but they're both in the same episode, so it gets really confusing. So I feel your timeline pain, I try to ignore it. That's why I didn't include too many specific timeline questions in this. I tried to stick to stuff mostly from episode 3, but there were a lot of episode 4 questions too. Here we go. Maria asks, why do you think that Jon was so weird about Davos telling Dany that he died and came back? Why didn't Melisandre tell her about that? So yeah, this was one of the biggest questions that I got in the comments. I think the idea is that he feels like that's asking too much of her. Like, this is a really big deal that we're trying to come together, and I don't want to freak you out. The 100% totally valid criticism of this in the way that it's written is because Daenerys has 3 dragons. She spends a great deal of their conversation hyping them up, the most big supernatural WTF things on the show. She doesn't bat an eyelash at that, but somehow coming back from the dead is too much. Like, she literally was reborn in the fire, even though technically she didn't die. So she and Jon both have that in common. We were reborn and kissed by fire. Jon being kissed by the Red God, not literally fire like Daenerys. The best way to tackle stuff like this is just to look at the show's intent. Like, okay, they're trying to show that Jon Snow feels like he's going to overwhelm Daenerys, and he's only just learning about the dragons now, so maybe he doesn't fully understand what she's comfortable with and what she's not. So I would recommend not poking too deep into big logic holes like that, because it'll just make you madder. Next one, Brandon asks, hey Charlie, do you think that we'll get a tourney at Harrenhal flashback? I want to see Rhaegar. So I still 100% believe that we're going to see a version of Rhaegar this season, but now I'm kind of backing off the Harrenhal flashback. After the way they treated flashbacks last season, I was like, okay, contextually they need to explain Rhaegar and Lyanna. Like, they gave us a teaser, now they need to show a version of that on screen. So turning at Harrenhal would be an easy way to do that. Littlefinger has referred to it in the past. Barristan Selmy has even referred to it, and he had that whole big story about him singing with Rhaegar down in King's Landing. So they mention a character so many times, eventually they have to show him to pay that off. So yes, Rhaegar, but now, based on the way they're brushing over stuff super quickly, I do not think that they spent the time or the money to do a full-blown Tourney at Harrenhal flashback. So whatever version of a Rhaegar scene we end up seeing, I'm expecting it to be about as big or long as the Tower of Joy scene at the end of the season last year. Next one, Eric asks, do you think that Melisandre referenced what Varys heard in the flames when she said he will die in this country? He was taken aback by it. Yeah, that's definitely a good theory, and it's totally possible, but I think based on the way the character's written this season, he was more taken aback by it because it's just a WTF thing to say to somebody. Oh, I'll be back because I'm meant to die in this strange land, as are you, Varys. So all she's really saying in that is that she's sort of foreseen that she's going to die in the War for the Dawn, or she senses that she's destined to die, and she's made her peace with that. But the other characters haven't come to terms with that because they haven't been thinking about it at all. They've only been thinking about the war with Cersei. So I think that's mostly why you get that Varys reaction. But as for what the voice in the flames said to him, I do think that it was one of those moments like the Hound had where he saw a vision and he didn't fully understand it. But you have to remember that this was when he was a child, so I don't know if the show's ever actually going to pay that off. That feels like it would be a Tyrion conversation. Next one, GDGO asks, isn't Braavos a city built by slaves? Isn't Braavos a city where people despise slavery, but the Iron Bank of Braavos makes money with slavery in Essos? So yeah, you're talking about what Tycho Nestoris was saying. He implied that they've lost money because of Daenerys. Most of you probably know at least a little bit about the founding of the city of Braavos. After the fall of the Valyrian Freehold, a bunch of slaves basically ran away to this area where Braavos was founded. They hid out, they made this hidden city, and then eventually later revealed themselves to the rest of the world. During that time, they flourished, they founded the Iron Bank, but I think the implication here is that the Iron Bank at this point only cares about money. So if it's something that's going to make them a lot of money, they probably don't care about how taboo it is. The Iron Bank will have its due. There's nothing about morality that's baked into that. The Iron Bank will have what belongs to it, which is money. Next one, Javier asks, Sam has a lot of documents to transcribe, presumably related to the book the Archmaester's writing about Robert's Rebellion. Is that how he's going to learn about Rhaegar and Lyanna's wedding? So you're assuming that they did get secretly married. There's a record of it somewhere in the Citadel. I do think that Samwell is going to learn about Jon Snow's parentage in those documents. Regardless of what Jon Snow's status is, yes, I do think that Samwell is going to find the other piece of information that will prove the things that Bran is saying. Like there'll be a couple different components to it. Jon Snow, son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. Here, watch this play out on screen. Then the legal proof of that will come from Samwell and the Citadel and all the stuff that he and Gilly are reading about. Next one, though, Sean asks, was Bran talking about her wedding with Ramsay? So you're talking about when he was talking to Sansa about the white dress. Yes, yeah, that was what everybody was freaking out about. Like, hey, I watched this happen to you. You look really beautiful. So I think the idea is that he can't really decipher context from scenes. Like, he didn't recognize that this was a horrible night for her. He just saw the wedding. He didn't see what happened later. He didn't see the rest of this moment, didn't have any context for what was really going on. So just be prepared for Bran to slowly learn more and make a lot more errors in judgment as he tries to fight the Night King. So if he can derp this, think about the other stuff he can derp. We haven't even talked about the idea that he's broken the enchantment on the wall, and the show hasn't even really addressed it. So be prepared for something really bad to happen with Bran's storyline. Next one, Abanano asks, do you think that Daario and the Second Sons will still have a part to play in the big war if Dany keeps losing armies? Could Gendry and Daario be together right now? Definitely think that Daario is nowhere near Gendry. Daario's still in the east. Melisandre is going back to the east, though. Remember during Season 6, Daenerys left Daario in charge of Meereen, but it sounds like the situation with the slavers is going to deteriorate. Without the dragons and the giant army on their doorstep, they'll probably try to reboot the slave trade. But if Melisandre is going to Volantis, and she said she's coming back, she might come back with more Red Priests to help in the War for the Dawn. That would be the opportunity for him to hop a ride with them, whether or not he's ever going to come back. But I don't think that there's like any grander significance to his return in the story, other than just being another person that controls a group of people that could help out. Next one, Rahul asks, there's actually a couple ones here. Why did Bran not tell Sansa about Jon's parentage? Why did Bran not warn Sansa about Littlefinger? And what are the documents that she's reading? So those first two parts, I will say that probably mostly for plot reasons. Like, they don't want to reveal that information prematurely. So that, complaint against the show, logic over dramatic twist. That's kind of a recurring thing with the show. How come this character didn't give this very critical information to this other character? You could say because Bran needs to learn to see clear, so he doesn't fully understand the information himself. But that's the most logical way that I could think to explain that. But as for the last one, I actually mixed my timelines up. So Maester Luwin was actually dead before the Boltons came along. So there are a couple better theories that I've seen that I like a little bit better. So one is that Maester Luwin has some record that has something to do with Jon Snow. But the better theory, I think, is that it's something that's a callback to Season 1, because the show's been doing that. You see Arya reunite with Nymeria for the first time since this moment in Season 1. You see a lot of references to the people that have died when they went south. Starks don't fare well when they go south. So, remember what happened during Season 1 when they were getting ready to behead Ned Stark. They made Sansa declare that her father was a traitor and send letters to a bunch of different people. One of those letters was sent to Winterfell and Robb Stark. So there would be a letter of Sansa declaring that her father's a traitor and she's loyal to the Lannisters and the crown. So that would be a big piece of ammunition that Littlefinger could use against Sansa. So if he sensed that she was moving against him or making some sort of plot, he could try to threaten her with blackmail. So just a theory, but I do feel like that's the most relevant thing for Sansa's storyline. And it feels like all the Littlefinger stuff that's happening this season is revolving around her character. So whatever the big twist is with these letters is probably something specific to what she's done and what Littlefinger's done. Next one, Brad asks, do you think there'll be a reunion between Jorah Mormont and the Little Bear? So you're saying, everybody's coming together by the end of the season. Maybe we'll get a reunion. I don't think that's going to be the case. Right now, I'm expecting Jorah to be relatively close to Daenerys. I'm not expecting Daenerys to go anywhere near Winterfell, although I do think that she's going to go to the north. I think she's going to have something to do with this big final battle. But I think the only way that Jorah and the Little Bear wind up in the same room are if Daenerys and the Little Bear are in the same room, and I don't think that's going to happen. But thank you so much for submitting questions. These are always a ton of fun to do, especially trying to figure out the timelines. There will be more bonus videos this week before episode 4 posts, so if you want me to do anything specific, just let me know. That'll probably be in a couple days. There'll be some more Rick and Morty. There's also some more comic book stuff that just dropped, so I'll try to get through all that stuff. But congratulations to the latest giveaway winner. Corlo, you win an HBO Now subscription. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. While you wait for everything, click here for the trailer for next week's episode, and you can click here for my episode 3 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.